Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Everyone, please rise. Extend your hands in front of you, and though you're holding a tray or are about to receive a gift, you may recite along with me silently as I recite aloud the opening prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the day of requital. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray. Amen. You may be seated. In the name of our Father, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, in the person of our Father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him forever. And we thank Master Fard Muhammad, who came in the person of Allah in the year 1930. He is the manifestation of Almighty God Allah. We will remember him and praise him forever. And we will honor him by naming our children after him for at least 1,000 years. And we thank our Father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, for raising the field supreme minister of the New World Nation of Islam, Holy Tribe of Shabazz, Ali Mahdi Muhammad. We greet you in the Arabic language of peace, of Assalamu alaikum,
Walaikum salam.
and in the New World Nation of Islam, greetings of peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
How y'all feeling?
Fine, sir.
Praise be to Allah Muhammad. We're feeling fine too, thank Allah Muhammad. I am Brother Minister Rahim Ali, your host for this afternoon. And I'm honored to be your master of ceremony for today's temple service. Today, we have a life-giving message from the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, which comes out of the book, The Fall of America, titled Destructions of American Education. This subject will be given to you by two dynamic ministers of the New World Nation of Islam, Holy Tribe of Shabazz. But before we introduce these two ministers, allow me to explain the protocol and procedures you have just experienced. As you would enter our temple service, we ask that you submit to our searching procedure. This searching procedure is not the invention of the New World Nation of Islam. It was first given to us in 1930 by Allah God, who came in the person of Master Fard Muhammad. With this searching procedure, is for your own protection. You do not need a weapon here. This is the house of God. Also, if you have a cell phone, please put it on vibrate or turn it off. This is also put here to eliminate any distraction or interruption of the service. If the brothers look to their left and the sisters look to their right, they'll see that you have the brothers on one side and the sister on the other. This is not strange. Some people might say, well, you believe in showing favoritism, but that's not the truth. What it is to make sure that everybody give their undivided attention to the teaching of the most honorable Mr. Muhammad. So, the separation of the sexes is only meant to prevent the natural distraction between men and women. As we said, if anyone should need to use the restroom at any time, motion for one of the brothers and sisters in your rear, and he or she will assist you to the area. We thank Allah so much. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. Yeah, today is a rough day. So we can just get right into what we have to say. You know, a lot of times, many times, the followers and believers of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad in the New World Nation of Islam are asked the question. The question is, what is the New World of Islam? Now, to the believers, they'd be like, well, why would they want to know? Do they read the teaching of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Well, what we want to say is this. First of all, when you say the New World of Islam, most people get the impression that we are talking about a new group of folks who have just sprung up. Brothers and sisters, that is not true. If you read the books of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, you will see and you will find that he has always taught that he was preparing us for the arrival of Master Farad Muhammad, God in person, and that Master Farad Muhammad would establish the new world out of the old world, or out of those true believers of his Nation of Islam, who held fast to his teaching. So, brothers and sisters, the fact is this: the new world of Islam is the old nation of Islam. And the old nation of Islam is the new world nation of Islam. The difference is that Master Farad Muhammad is now qualifying those believers of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, God in person. And that Master Farad Muhammad would establish this, the new world, out of the true believers. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. He is establishing the new world just as our father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, promised. We are the nation of Islam. We are the children of Elijah. We are the children of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, our father. We are the nation, and the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad is the light of that nation that has prepared us for the meeting and acceptance of Allah God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. So the difference is this, that the New World Nation of Islam teach today the presence of Allah God in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. And the Nation of Islam teaches of his return or of his coming. That is the difference. We are the holy tribe of Shabazz. The Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad said that we came here 66 trillion years ago. We came not here, but we came with this planet. To make sure we get this straight. We came with this planet 66 trillion years ago. Not to it, with. And if people, all the archaeologists that go out and dig up and look for finds and so forth, they find us looking at them. Each time they pull a piece up, they see us. We've been here ever since. This earth was created 66 trillion years ago. How to back that up? We've been here ever since 66 trillion years ago. Alhamdulillah, Muhammad. We know that we would say that 66 trillion years ago was a long time. But to us, it's just a drop in the bucket. The most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad said that we are the holy family of the planet Earth. We are the holy We are the family that came with this part. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. So we are that tribe that came with this planet. Now we're talking about the Bible. In the Bible, John 1:1. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. Elijah means my God. All the books with the name of God that says Elijah, the meaning, it means my God. In other places, it would say God is with us. What's the difference? The most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad fulfilled that part of the scriptures as being the one where it says in the beginning, it was his word. It was his word that gave us life. And it was the light of his word that gave us life. No black man here in the United States knew anything about being the direct descendants of God until the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him forever, began to teach this. We thought we was niggers. We thought we was colored. We didn't want to be called black until the teaching to the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad stood up and proclaimed that we are the direct descendants of Almighty God Allah himself, the holy tribe of Shabbat. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. Our black woman. Boy, you can't get no better. In 1555, when that slave ship landed here with 21 slaves, it was 11 women, black women, and 11 men, black men. The black man was taken off the boat, the ship, with shackle and chain, and sold on auction block to the highest bidder. That black woman was right there beside him with shackles and chain and sold to the highest bidder. Brother, she have never left us. Regardless of whatever else happened, she always been there with her black man. We cannot say enough and give enough thanks to Allah for our companion, the black woman. Can't get no better than that. We know that a lot of us get kind of thrown off sometime about why they running behind other men. That's because we got to get ourselves right. If we don't want them to go no place else, we better get ourselves right. We must, the Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad says that we must not never beat them. We have to treat them right. If she's able to produce for us a little baby, then she created life. We have to put them on a pedestal, like the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad wanted us to. We have to uphold them the way the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad wanted us to. This is our black woman. She is our other half. Without her, it won't be me. It won't be you. Without us, it won't be them. Well, we like this. I have to say, we like two peas in a pod. Come out the same sprout. And until we get our black woman and put her back on the pedestal where she belongs, she's actually going to leave us. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. The key to understanding the teachings of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad is to know that the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad says what he means and mean what he says. Nothing is wrong. Everything is in time and on time all the time. The history is already written in 25,000 year cycles. We quote what he wrote and what he said we must obey. Nothing is wrong, brothers and sisters. The history is already written in 25,000 year cycles. Our Father said before the kingdom can come, there must be a falling away first. During the night of spiritual darkness, the devil will cast 1/3 of the stars of God down to the ground, but a new sun and a new day under the guidance of the great Mahdi will come. And he will turn the hearts of the children back to our Father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. So with that, we will bring on our first speaker for the day, our beloved government minister, Wazir Ali. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Let us give a round of applause to Brother Minister Rahim Ali. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, Most Merciful, in the person of our Father, the Most Honorable, Mr. Elijah Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah forever be upon him. And we thank Master Farad Muhammad, who came in the person of Allah in the year of 1930. He is the manifestation of Almighty God Allah. We will remember him and praise him forever. And we will honor him by naming our children after him for at least 1,000 years. And we thank our Father, the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, for raising the Field Supreme Minister of the New World Nation of Islam, Field Supreme Minister Ali Mahdi Muhammad, the Holy Tribe of Shabazz. With that, I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, with the New World Nation of greetings of peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
In our Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
The key to understanding the teachings of the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad is to know that the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad says what he means and means what he says. We quote what he wrote and what he said. We must obey. Nothing is wrong. Everything is in time and on time all the time. The history is already written in 25,000 year cycles. Our Father, the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, said that before the kingdom can come, there must be a falling away first. And during the night of spiritual darkness, the devil will cast 1/3 of the stars of God down to the ground. But a new sun and a new day, under the guidance of the great Mahdi, will come, and he will turn the hearts of children back to our Father, the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. The new sun is to be raised here in the wilderness of North America by the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, we are a nation within a nation. We are approximately 50 million people plus approximately 2 million Indians who are our brothers, and they are original people. We must have some land that we can call our own. These keys that is given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are the only things that will wake our people up, meaning that the things that he teaches us will give us an understanding and will cause us to see and understand our condition and understand what we must do in this day and time of judgment. And we also have to give recognition to our brothers and sisters in the jails and in the prison houses and that are on death row. We, the New World Nation of Islam, have not and will not forget you. Our brothers and sisters that are languishing in these prisons, state and federal prisons, in this United States or United States of America. The first works of Master Farad Muhammad, Allah in person, is to free the captive believers. And we quote what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote And what he wrote and what he quote, we must obey. We will free you from prison. And in the name of Allah and Muhammad, we have to say this again. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Praise be to Allah Muhammad. This afternoon, we have a very serious subject. So we're going to deliver this with no antics, no theatrics, but in the seriousness in which the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote this. It is called the destruction of America's education. This is very important that we understand this particular subject. So if you have any friends or family, please get up and make a phone call to them and tell them to get with this subject because this is very important. Don't turn that dial off. Go ahead and contact your people. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. The first thing that we have to understand is what is education before we get into the quote. What is education? Education is the process of facilitating learning or the acquisition of knowledge, skills, values, beliefs, and habits. Educational methods include storytelling, discussion, teaching, training, and direct research. In most regions or religions or styles of in different cultures, education is the compulsory. It is compulsory, meaning that it is a must up to a certain age. This means that at a very young age, you're educating your child. This is why the woman is very important. This is why brothers and sisters that come up here, we mention the black woman, because it's important, because she's the first teacher. She's the first one to educate your children. So if the woman is educated, then the children will be educated. This society that we live in, the white man's world, the white society, the United States, and their influence in the world has corrupted and hurt all civilizations on the planet. The moment white folks broke out of Europe and began to conquer, they began to destroy the civilizations of the world, the civilizations on this earth. And that means all of the indigenous and original people that came with the different continents around the world. All praise is due to Allah Muhammad. Now let's get to what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says. We're going to be reading a few things, and we're laying a foundation for the national spokesman for the New World Nation of Islam, Brother Mumin Allah, Brother Minister Mumin Allah. We are laying the foundation in which he will go into a larger scope of this particular message. So pay close attention, because he's going to be expounding on different points that are here, that I raised now, and also the points that he himself has. All praise is due to Allah and Muhammad. We thank Allah much for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we thank Allah much for the Field Supreme Minister for keeping his duty. All praise is due to Allah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad opens up this particular subject in Fall of America on page 92, chapter 21. He says, oh, and what he says is like scripture. You have the Bible, the Holy Quran. If you notice, when you deal with Orthodox Islam, you're dealing with a lot of rituals. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that when Master Farad Muhammad came, he brought a new Islam, a new way of thinking, a new way of addressing the problems in the world, a new way of submitting to Allah and Muhammad. Understand that we are taught in a publication called the Al-Quran that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, this is why we mention his name, he established and reestablished the signs for us, for the world to see, for exactly what's going to happen, and it is happening today, right now. All praise is due to Allah Muhammad. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says the plague of Allah against the educational system of America is something that the philosophers and scientists should look into, as the destruction of America's education is a destruction of their wisdom to educate the people. Remember we said that this education starts in the home. If the home is messed up, the education from the beginning is messed up. To be complicated, confused, and compounded with madness when you go to school. There are many who look on the destruction without taking a second thought of the destruction of America's education. Education is a guide for the people to keep and maintain a civilized life. It is education that civilizes us. Now to see the citizens of America rebelling against the American educational system is something that the wise of the wise should take thought of. Now think about that. An inconsistent sentence and grammatorial writing. Think about it. Check it out. The wise of the wise should take thought of. Let's check out the word thought. According to the dictionary, and I checked different thesaurus, I didn't write them all down. I wrote one that is relevant to the subject at hand. Thought is an idea or opinion produced by thinking or occurring suddenly. A way of thinking associated with a group. A way of thinking associated with a group or nation. A way of thinking. We always ask a question about a new world. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad began to insert this word new in the articles that he wrote in the Pittsburgh Courier, and then followed by Muhammad Speaks newspaper. This was to begin to start changing the way black men and women are educated. One who is a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad can say he taught me. And there are those who say, well, what, he taught you personally? Yes. When I open this book and I read this book in my home or wherever I'm at, wherever you are at, he's teaching me. He's teaching you.
That's right.
So when a brother or sister says, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught me, he taught you, and he taught me. That's the truth. He taught you personally, he taught you group-wise, and he taught you nationally.
Yes, sir.
Over the radio, over films, over the printed word, he educated you. While one educational system is falling, my educational system is rising. Out of an old world comes a new world. Out of an old system comes a new system. Out of an old way of thinking comes a new way of thinking. And out of a new way of thinking comes a new civilization. All praise is due to Allah Muhammad. And it starts with the woman in the home. All praise is due to Allah and Muhammad. Understand this, MG sister. Those of you that are watching, those sisters that put their uniforms in a closet, those brothers that put their uniforms in a closet, pull them out. It's time. It's time for you to rise up. This is the time that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about. The fall of one nation, the rise of another. We're still talking about the destruction of education in the United States. All praise is due to Allah and Muhammad. The things that he's saying here are so relevant, brother. I got to bring you up to date. And the reason why I'm saying up to date is that this book was written in 1972. You see how everything is brought to light? The destruction of the education system. Look how all these young white boys are going into the schools and killing each other. That's part of the destruction. The educational system, the civilizing system, turning them back into savages in which they are by nature. All praise is due to Allah Muhammad. Oh, at one time they did have the knowledge of themselves, and that's what created them to become savages, because in them going back into savagery and resurrected and taught by Moses. So says the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. Throughout America, her colleges and her universities and her teachers are in danger. The students no longer want old guidance. It is a new world that they want. But in their mad destruction of the old world, they do not know how to prepare for a new world civilization. They do not have the guidance for a new civilization. And in their madness, they refuse to hear a teacher teaching of a civilization or an educational system of a better civilization, the civilization of a black man. The wisdom of the educational system of the Aboriginal black man of the earth has never been known to this world because the black man was put to sleep in order to let the white world, the white man, try itself at ruling. Now the rule of this world has been found to be dissatisfying, and dissatisfaction is 100%. And I'm going to close in this particular quote here. Allah God has come to take over and to guide another people, you and I, into setting up a better educational system for the people of whom he himself is the head. And we all get guidance from him. As Daniel said in his prophecy, God will set up a kingdom and he will not leave it into the hands of others, but he himself will guide it. But first he must remove all the rubbish of this white man's world of educational system. He discards America's educational system as we discard rubbish to be burned up. That new world, that new education comes to us in the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And that God, who is the head, who's to teach us, is present today in the person of Master Farad Muhammad. I thank you, brothers and sisters, for listening. May Allah bless you and grant you the peace and understanding of the life truth. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Let us turn everything over to our blood brother minister, NMC brother minister Rahim Ali. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Praise be to Allah, Mama. Let's give our beloved brother another round of applause, please. Praise be to Allah, Muhammad. The Quran said, reminders benefit the believers. So we just want to go over something that the brother just spoke on. And we're going to do it again. This is dealing with our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated. You know, this is what we are going to say. It is passed down. We must give recognition to our brothers and sisters in the jail, prisons, and death row. We, the new world, nation of Islam, have not forgotten, have not and will not forget you. Our brothers and sisters in the prison of the United States. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad ordered us, let me calm it down a little bit, ordered us. He said, the first work of Master Farad Muhammad is to free the captive believers. We quote what he wrote and what he said, the New World Nation of Islam say, what the New World Nation of Islam must obey. What he said, we must obey. We will free you from prison in the name of Allah in Muhammad. Peace, peace. This comes from up high. So praise be to Allah Muhammad. We are here and we want to talk about something that we all been looking at. I know you've been looking at the posters behind us. We have 3 posters behind us, 3 pictures. We have one here, which is Master Farad Muhammad, Almighty God Allah, who came here to the shore of North America in 1930. He was born in Mecca, Arabia. His father was a black man. His mother was a Caucasian. His father was one of the 23 scientists of Islam. It was giving his father the job to go and find a woman or someone who he could have issues with, or not issues like problems, but babies, but children. And he had to go up into the Caucasus Mountain to get one because this child had to be specially made, specially prepared. He had to be one that would be able to come out looking white, but was actually black. So it was his job to go up into these mountains and pick out a white woman, have a child with her. The Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad said that the first one that she had was a girl. I missed. The second one was Master Fard Muhammad. They taught him. These scientists gave him their knowledge, wisdom and understanding of the date and time of what was to be done. After training him until he got the completion of his training, he went out and traveled the world to complete his mission. He was in and out of the United States for 20 years. He got here in 1910, and his last trip here, he was here for a year before Elijah Muhammad, who was named Elijah Poole at that time. He said the Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad said his grandfather gave him the name Elijah. Now, his first name was Poole. He said, and Allah suggested he take Abdul. He said, but Abdul stand opposed to what I stand for. Abdul means servant. Elijah means my God. So it was after the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad met Master Fard Muhammad, and the story goes that when he first saw him, he says that he recognized him as soon as he saw him. We must remember that Master Fard Muhammad was there too. It was Elijah that recognized him. Elijah said that he was waiting on him. Let's give the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad all of his props as it says like. The most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, not Elijah. We don't want to take nothing from him. The most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, our God. But the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad gave us the flag of the sun, moon, and stars, which was given to him by Master Fard Muhammad. The most honorable Mr. We want to retract here for a minute. Go back for a minute. We want to let you know that Master Fard Muhammad was born February the 26th, 1877. So we're talking about some history here. And the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad was born October the 8th, the 7th, pardon me, may I not forget it. See, sometime, I'm not going to make an excuse for it, but October the 7th. 1897. Thank Allah, Muhammad. And the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, father, was a preacher, Baptist preacher. And he would follow his father around when he was young, because he knew that he was something that he wanted to know, it was something he had to do. He wasn't satisfied with seeing what was going on out there in the world. So he followed his father around. He wanted to be a preacher at first. But see, after meeting Master Fard Muhammad, he knew what his calling was for. His calling was for to save his people. He had always wanted to do something to help his people. The most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad gave us the flag of the sun, moon, and stars. He said that the sun represents freedom and controls the 9 planets. It is consistent of light and heat. This sun, everyone have to respect it, because it can kill and it can give life. This is our national. The red background represents the sun. The star is the light that lights up the universe. It reflects the sun. The star is the one that dispels darkness through the universe. And the star bears witness to the sun. The star is without number. You cannot count the numbers of the stars. That's what it is with us. And the star of the universe signifies justice. The moon praise be to Allah Muhammad, represents equality. Without the moon at this time, the earth balance will be thrown off. The moon is what causes the tides in the ocean. It has a gravitational pull on the earth to cause it to go through different cycles. The moon is most important to all of us. So praise be to Allah Muhammad. Now, next we want to speak about our actual fact board, which consists of the star and crescent, and you have the American flag. The American flag is which will be on your left, and will be on my right, and the national is on my left and your right. The flag represents the United States. Up under there, you see a cross. It represents, you see this young man hanging on the tree? That's what it represents. It represents slavery, suffering, and death. It represents slavery, suffering, and death. We know that the black man has been hung on the trees. This is part of the Bible where it says, and they hung them on trees. They was hung on trees. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. And on this side of honor, the star and crescent you have, this sun, moon, and star represent freedom, justice, and equality. Islam. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. We want to say that the key to understanding the teachings of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad is to know that the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad says what he means and means what he says. We quote what he wrote, and what he said we must obey. Nothing is wrong. Everything is in time and on time all the time. The history is already written in 25,000-year cycles. Our father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, said, before the kingdom can come, there must be a falling away first. During the night of spiritual darkness, the devil will cast 1/3 of the stars of God down to the ground, but a new sun and a new day under the guidance of the great Mahdi will come. And he will turn the hearts of the children back to our Father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. So with that, we will bring on our beloved minister, our beloved spokesman, Brother Muhammad Ali. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
That's 1 second now.
Fine, sir.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, in the person of our Father, the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him forever. And we thank Master Farad Muhammad, who came in the person of Allah in the year of 1930. He is the manifestation of Almighty God Allah. We will remember him and praise him forever. And we will honor him by naming our children after him for at least 1,000 years. And we thank our Father, the Most Honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad, for raising the field supreme minister of the New World Nation of Islam, Holy Tribe of Shabazz, Ali Mahdi Muhammad. As I greet you in our New World Nation of Islam's greetings, a peace to you in this world, and peace to you in the new world hereafter. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
The key to understanding the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is to know that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says what he means and means what he says. We quote what he wrote, and what he says we must obey. Nothing is wrong. Everything is in time and on time all the time. The history is already written in 25,000 years cycles. Our Father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, before the kingdom can come, there must be a falling away first. And during the night of spiritual darkness, the devil will cast 1/3 of the stars of God down to the ground. But a new sun and a new day under the guidance of the great Mahdi will come. And he will turn the hearts of the children back to our beloved spiritual father, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The new sun is raised here in the wilderness of North America by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Again, how my beloved brothers and sisters this afternoon.
Fine, sir.
Destruction of America's education. That's what's before us today. And as Brother Minister pointed out, there's great detriment behind this subject if we're not aware of what we should do in response to the destruction of America's education. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in this chapter on page 97, the destruction of America's education is the best thing that Allah could do to rid us of that which you depend on for guidance. That's what he said. The destruction of America's education is the best thing that Allah God could do to rid us of that which you depend on for guidance. You hear us often say that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that history is best qualified to reward all research. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Carter G. Woodson states in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, on page 9, concerning education. He said, these things must be viewed in their historical setting. Now we're talking about the destruction of America's educational system, and that this is the best thing that Allah could do to rid us of that which you depend on. And Carter G. Woodson bears witness to this, but he bears witness to it in that we should view this educational thing in its historic setting. So let us do this, because we have to understand that the intellectual class and the academic class of our people are the ones who depend on the white man's educational system for guidance.
So when a people fall, they fall because of the leadership of those that are called intellects and academics, those who are looked upon as the thinkers, the shapers and molders of what they call the zeitgeist or the mindset of the masses. So let's see how that looks, historically speaking. It says in the book, True Believer by Eric Hoffer, and this is what he says about intellectuals and academics. On page 90, he says, it is startling, this is his words, it is startling to view the oppressed who almost invariably, meaning with little exception, who almost invariably shape themselves in the image of their hated oppressor. I mean, look outside right now. Look at all the academics and intellectuals. Do they look like Aboriginal black people, men and women of intellect and academics? Of course not. They look like black versions of whiteness. That's what they look like. Where did they get their academics from? Where did they get their education from? They got it from white people. Brother by the name of John G. Jackson, he wrote a book called Man, God, and Civilization. And in there, he poses two trends of thought within the mindset of man. And it fits the intellectuals and academics perfectly. Remember, our father said this is the best thing that Allah could do, destroy America's education, to rid us, the intellectuals and the academics, of that which we depend on for guidance. And in this book, on page 71 and 72, he notes two thoughts or principles of thought. He said the first principle of thought is like produces like, or effect resembles cause. And it states that this is the law called the law of similarity, meaning that those of similar mindsets or similar foundations, they are alike, they are reflective of one another. In this case, the so-called Negro intellects and academics, they reflect their white slave masters' academics, their education. In the second law of thought, he points out, he says, those who have been in contact with one another over time, it shows that they still have an effect on one another even after the contact has been severed from a distance. This law is called the law of contact or contagion. The intellects and academics, they have been contaminated by white thought or academics, education. So this is proof that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is making clear to us it's the best thing that could have happened to us, Allah destroying the academics. Well, look at our neighborhoods. Little Raheem can't read. Little Shaniqua can't read. Why? Because we have not been taught education. We have been taught something, but it's not education. So we should not oppose Allah's dismantling and destroying that which we have depended on for guidance. Honorable Elijah Muhammad says in this same chapter, Destruction of America's Education, he says that America's education has never benefited you and me only in the way of keeping us slaves to the white man. That's what he said. Only in the way of keeping us slaves to the white man's way of thinking. So where's the proof? Dick Gregory says in his book, No More Lies, on page 54, to show you that the white man's education has never been beneficial to us, only to keep us as slaves. And he says on this, in this particular chapter on page 54, he says the colleges and universities of America are so out of tune with nature. This is what he said. He said that the grade system, the report card, is a measure or a yardstick of how greatly or how well you have been indoctrinated. He points out that education means to bring wisdom out, while indoctrination means to force knowledge in. And he said that the grade system is a means to showing how well you had been indoctrinated. So this is proof that the educational system of America does not serve our purpose, which is to bring out genius. Brother by the name of Anthony Browder, he wrote a book called From the Browder File. And in there on page 137, he notes that education means to bring wisdom and genius out. And he notes that the root of education comes from the Latin word educere, which means to bring out. Then he points out how the white man introduced miseducation to extinguish any spark of genius, any hint of greatness in our people. So this is proof that the slave master's teachings do not benefit us academically to the degree that we are able to pull ourselves up and do for self. And if that's not clear enough for you, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says on page 40, a message to the black man. He says, this proves that the slave master has been very successful with an educational system that is beneficial to him. That's true. This is exactly what the slave master has done. Let us go back to the beginning. Let us go right back to where we just started from. The destruction of America's educational system is the best thing Allah God could do to get rid of that which we depend on for guidance. Let us look at that, because there's much missing from the historical record that they don't introduce in there. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gives us an insight into this and why he says what he says in Fall of America concerning education when it comes from the white man. Now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad notes in Message to the Black Man, again on page 140, he said, I recall back in 1922 or 1923, he said there was a debate in Congress over appropriating funding for Howard University. He said a school set aside by the white man, the government, for training of our people. And then he said, I recall the senator saying, and he said, is there on the record to be examined in effect, his words. And he said, the senator said, what would be the reason for us appropriating money to educate Negroes when we're not going to teach them modern warfare, defense, birth control, and chemistry? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he knew that these are things that free people need to be independent, because this is the means of protecting, preserving, and advancing yourselves. So you see, the educational system of America is not designed to promote independence, but it is designed to produce servants and slaves of a greater system of education that is dominated by our open enemy, the white man. 1922, 1923, this is what they said about Howard University. But if you go back in history, which is best qualified to serve and to reward all research, you will find that what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said is true through and through. We can't benefit by the educational system of these white folks. 1865, the slave master freed us, right?
Yes, sir.
The slave master freed us, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. All the slave master said was, nigga, we taking the shackles off your hands and feet and we're putting them in your head or around your head. He said, you're free. 13th Amendment says that, right? 14th Amendment naturalizes us, and the 15th Amendment says you can vote for me. That's what it says. So now, here, we are free. But if you look in Muhammad Speaks article by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, he says, the mystery of Hiram, the widow's son. And in the third paragraph, what does he say? It shows that he was hit in the head with a setting maul. So he said it proves that he was killed mentally. Just a transference of control or shackling of the so-called Negro. You're free physically, but we're going to enslave you mentally. 1865, you're free. So Congress and philanthropists, white people who say, or they call them liberals today, who say that they are for the uplift of the downtrodden, in this case, the so-called Negro ex-slaves. They get together, and the central theme is, what are we going to do about these niggas? How are we going to control them? So the question comes up, what shall we do? And then the answer was, let's educate them. That's what it said. So in 1867, Congress chartered Howard University. That's what he did. And they said, we're going to educate the Negroes. We're going to bring them up. And it was initially designed, they don't tell you this in the record now, but Howard University was initially chartered by Congress. And they leave out the documentation that it was originally chartered to educate the mulatto children of white congressmen. That's a fact. Now, wait a minute.
That's right. That's right, brother.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said 90% of our women's virginity is broken in the homes and offices of the white man. So now here you have a school that initially was for half-black children being educated, whose fathers were white congressmen, who had power over the life and every aspect of the life of our black mothers. So this was rape institutionalized, and then you indoctrinating your own children that was begotten by rape. This is Howard University. So then they began to say, well, listen, we have to educate these niggas. So let's let them in too, because we have to now establish what they said, an elite class of Negroes, along with a class of farmers, teachers, builders, mechanics. This is what we have to establish. So they said that the Negroes' education will be industrial education, not academic education, because that produces thinkers. So they got together and they established what was called the Lake Mohonk Conferences on the Negro question. It's in the history books. Lake Mohonk, New York is where they held these conferences. And it was the Lake Mohonk Conference on the Negro question. But here's the thing. All of the great white teachers and ministers of religion from the United States and Britain attended. But the established omission or restriction was no Negroes allowed. But you're talking about educating the black man. This is on the historical record. And it was established, it had two Lake Mohonk conferences. One, June 4th through the 6th, 1890, and one June 3rd through the 5th, 1891. It was initiated by former President Rutherford Hayes. Now look at this. Hayes was elected president in 1877, just after the first Reconstruction had ended. And under his administration, Jim Crow and black laws reigned supreme because the Southern industrialists and the Northern industrialists were able to take over the South again. So they factored prominently in the educational process of the Negro. So they had these two conferences. And in these conferences, it was accepted that they will be educated, but they will be educated industrial-wise and not academic. If you look at, what's that? Florida A&M, Alabama A&M, agricultural and mechanics, nothing intellectual, that which produces workers, a labor class, with a few token Negroes as being the mindset of the class. This is what they meant by industrial education and not academic education. So this was established and it was agreed upon and produced under these white folks. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, noting that the destruction of America's educational system is the best thing that Allah could do to rid you of that which you depend on, it rings historically true. Because this is what white folks had designed for our people. And you hear our people praising. In fact, Howard University was named after General Oliver Howard, a white Union Army general during the Civil War.
That's right. Tell them, brother.
And by 1890, the South was full of what they call HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. White folks initiated this. White folks chartered them. And now we're walking around like we started something and are the fathers and mothers of an educational process that's independent of whiteness. when it was white folks who established it. And you wonder why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it's the best thing that can happen? There are academics that are general and that are fundamental to all circles of education anywhere on the planet. But when they are lacking the cultural and the theological aspects that people need in order to instill independence and progressiveness, then it is an indoctrinational institution. And that's what it has always been for our people. You don't hear none of those brothers and sisters who are academic geniuses, intellectual stars. You don't hear none of them talking about, let's separate from the slave master. Let's take our academics and build something for self. You don't hear none of that because that which they depend on for guidance is void and bankrupt and empty of those ideas. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, no, we need a new education. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad says at the very end of this chapter, he says that Allah has the purpose for you in me. So come and follow me and learn the new education of the black man. The new education of the black man. That is not just for the black man in America alone, but for black people all over the earth. And then he says it from a standpoint of authority. He says, take it or leave it. This is where we're at. We're at the seat of power, America. But yet, we are lacking that which makes us avail and engineer all of the opportunity here to our benefit. And that's knowledge of self. So what do we need? We need our own. What did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad say our seat of learning looks like? The University of Islam. See, right now, it looks like a glorified high school. But Allah always speaks ahead of time, giving you your marching orders to complete his will. He said we need a University of Islam. When God speaks, he only speaks in one direction, right? When Allah speaks, he speaks universally, doesn't he? So he's given us a school or a seat of learning or institution of learning that is representative of that which he teaches, that touches all the worlds as he is the Lord of all the worlds. So when we teach our future scholars, we teach our future academics and intellectuals, they are spiritually endowed with the perfect divine knowledge of self. So everything they shape and mold with their earthly or secular skills, it represents and reflects God in the highest.
Right. Yes,
So this is what America is not giving to them brothers and sisters in those high seats of learning with those postgraduate degrees and no sense of self at all. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we have to get rid of it. Not because we want to be like Samson, you poke my eyes out and now I'm going to get you, I don't care if nothing's left. No. This has been divinely thought through and is nothing that hasn't been comprehensively looked at. And the best thing that can happen is to remove the old world, the white folks, and establish our own world. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that we have to go back to Egypt and study for 20 years, learn a new mathematics, a new language, and things about our beautiful universe that they have never known. These white folks, they just learned with Galileo Galilei and Nicholas Copernicus. Just a little over 500 years ago, they learned about astronomy. They're going to tell us about the sun that we created, then stood in? Of course not. So how are they going to teach us the highest form of astronomy? How are they going to teach us what the Greeks call what is known, or mathematics? When we gave to them geometry, they called it the mother of mathematics. It came from us. So how are they going to teach us academically? All we need is a beginning, and then we can rid them all together of what we need from them. This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, this isn't just hollow words. This is just surface talk. This is just ink on paper. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in the 67 Saviors Day, we must look closely into the word, understand what is meant and say it. This is what he is saying with the removal of America's education and the establishment of the University of Islam. It is removing a limited God and one God coming in with unlimited potential, not just himself, but his people who are reflective of him, whose mental ability and spiritual wherewithal is unlimited. If given the proper setting and the proper schooling and the proper instruction and the proper ability to activate that learning. This is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is noting to us. He didn't just write some books. He gave us divine guidance in scripture. And here you have the devil confirming what he says if you study history. Everything is knowledge and history based. You name something, it is history and knowledge based. If you say, well, nothing is not history and knowledge based, you wouldn't know nothingness unless you had some knowledge of nothingness and the history of nothingness to know if you were applying nothingness. So everything in the beginning was nothing but God. And then here we are. His educational system is the best educational system. Let's look at the small surface of academics and intellectual gain that those young brothers and sisters had when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was on the scene. You name a preschool where the children are coming out not only reciting facts about their beautiful planet and universe, but able to break down in practical terms what it means from a young age, from the little sister age there, when they just barely learning how to talk. White folks don't do that. They have their kids scurrying around and playing and barely knowing their numbers and colors and directions. You see? This is proof that we are the best people because we have the mental ability to retain, to process, and to activate without becoming a victim of our learning. You see, the devil, when they get to learning too much, what they do, they snap out, as they say, they lose their sanity, they want to kill something because they're weak-boned and stale-faced. So they're not academically strong enough to withstand the God science of things. So this is why they teach us their version. Because they know if we ever get the pure version of knowledge, then there will be a footnote in history of that. So don't take what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says lightly about Allah destroying the education system of America being the best thing that Allah could do to rid us of that which we depend on for guidance. We should be praying and thanking Allah for removing it. So now we can get something in that space or vacuum that will benefit us. So we'll stop suffering slavery. So we'll stop suffering all of the hardships and injustice that these devils are pouring upon our people. And you have the academics and intellectuals doing just what they want them to do. No justice, no peace. You see? Instead of saying, let's separate and build our own nation, like the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, because that's not in their mental mindset. Because the devil doesn't want that. So he teaches everything but that. But today, it's do or die. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad makes it clear that we must establish our own, and we must learn every step of the way. The Holy Quran says, seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Well, the University of Islam is that particular vehicle for us all to establish a universal government that we can call our own, that the people will be proud to serve in. And the children will be proud to go and learn from those seats of learning that they know has no limits, only your ability to acquire the knowledge and put it to work. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Are there any questions?
Yes, sir. We have a question, sir. What is the meaning of the cross behind you? As in, where did it originate from?
Everything that the devil got, they received it from us. The cross, the Christian cross, in particular, the European cross. Anciently, the black man called it the crux ansata, from which you have what is called the Ankh. You see a lot of brothers and sisters are representing Egypt. It has the Ankh. It has a vertical line, and it has a horizontal line, and it has a loop at the top. All this represents is the vertical represents the secular life or the earthly life. The horizontal life represents the balance, and the loop at the top represents the eternal knowledge of God. When the devil, who he originated nothing, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us, everything he's gotten from us, but he's manipulated it to correspond with his way of thinking. So eventually, by his power on the planet, through, as they say, shot in powder, which is their God, military might. They were able to manipulate their image of the cross into what is today called the Christian cross or the European cross, and they were able to enforce the belief that the King James Version of the Bible is the true version, because Britain, they had an empire wherein the sun never set, literally, and they were able to force the people to believe that this tampered with book was the true word of God, which was an incorporation along with that of the cross. And this is where that particular brand of cross came from, the white man manipulating symbols of religion and culture that we had, and they just, as they say, reverse engineered them into their evil idea. And this is the product of that.
Are there any questions in the audience?
Peace, very good class. My first question is, in your opening, you said that the first work of Master Farad Muhammad was to free the captive believer. Is that a statement of war?
No, sir. That's a statement of the mercy of Allah and the promise of Allah. Case in point, you and I, black people in America who are descendants from slaves, are the epitome of that idea, freeing the captive believers. God told Abraham in Genesis 15, 13, and 14, good news and bad news, Abraham. The bad news is your people will be kidnapped by a strange people and taken to a strange land by those people and afflicted for 400 years for no just cause, just given hell. And after that time, Abraham, I will free that people and they will come out with great substance. Are we citizens of America? Are we free in America? Of course not. We are slaves. We are prisoners behind enemy lines among our enemies. So the first thing that Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad does is to free our people, those who are not confined to penitentiaries and those who are confined to the broader penitentiary called America. So this is not a subversive or a radical statement. This is a proof of the fulfillment of prophecy of God, that he frees his people first mentally. Because you have people now that are walking around in the world, but they're in prison in their minds. So he frees our thinking to know that we are not what white folks say that we are, but we what God says, and that is descendants from the creator of the universe. And that he's freeing us in the knowledge and ability to prove that. And then in turn, he frees those who are actually behind prison walls for no reason other than they're Muslim. And we don't have to prove this point. All you got to do is turn on the news and you see how many people who are behind the wall that the Innocent Project and all others are trying to free because they're innocent and never was guilty from the beginning. So no, it's not a subversive or revolutionary idea for God to free his people. It's a common course of justice that Allah frees his people. And this is his first teachings, to teach and free his people who have been enslaved all these 500 years. Yes, sir.
Yes, so we have a question from a brother online. He said, Jabbar Ali says, what is stopping the unity of all the groups of our Father from uniting?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us a message to the black man. Islam comes after everything has failed. Islam means unity. Islam means peace and the making of peace. If God comes, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, and does not give the enemies of Allah a chance to prove that they are what we say they are, then you will always have a remnant of those left behind saying, well, why did God kill them people? He didn't give them a chance. You know, they might have been good people. God allows everyone and everything, and devil included, an opportunity to do that which we know they will do. Holy Quran says, when Allah said, I'm going to place in the earth a people to rule. What did the angels say? Lord, what will you place in the earth except that which will make mischief in the land and cause bloodshed? There was nothing other than righteous on the scene. So this proves that you have to establish righteousness by letting everything other than righteousness have its work in its time, so that when the law removes it, no one will have a just argument against God for destroying that which was before. So this is the case today.
Peace. Very good class as well. Our question is, we know that February 26, 1877, Master Farad Muhammad was born, and we celebrate Savior's Day on that day. Today is October the 7th, the day when our father, Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was born, 1897. The question is, does the new world or the old world look at this date as a significant date, or is it, what's the status of that, sir?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in an interview that he did not know exactly when he was born in October. He said that once the month of October passes completely, he says, then he's such and such an age old. Remember, back during the time of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and our grandparents and great-grandparents and what have you, there was no systematic program in the hospitals, if we could get in one, to record the birth of the children of our foreparents. They would usually put it in the back of a Bible, and that would be the only record of it. And sometimes they didn't know when they were born because of circumstances. This is the case with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He said he didn't know exactly when he was born in October, just that he was born in October. And when it fully passed, he said he was such and such age old in that particular regard. So this is why we say he was born in October, because he said that. Now, with regards to Master Farad Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, and this is the mindset we should have, he says, and our Savior has arrived on page 29. He says, we call it our Savior's Day, but not in the way of birth, because every day is our Savior's Day. So this is how we look at it. Yes, sir.
Are there any more questions in the audience?
My second question is, the state of Black America is near savagery. You mean to tell me that you are going to build a new world with a designed educational system that's going to make them rulers of the planet?
Yes, sir. As they say, as unbelievable as that may sound or seem, that is the case. God always takes the worst circumstance, reconfigures it, and produces a righteous outcome. And as Uncle Yahya says, God always forecasts thousands of years ahead of time that he's going to produce an overthrow, and that is an overthrow of ignorance. And this will be the greatest overthrow yet. Remember, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, it is ignorance and people who make slums. And Islam will eradicate any such thing as slum. Look what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad did with the black man in the status that he was in the 30s up to today. Look at him. You had people who are heads of state bowing in respect to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because he was shaping, molding, and producing civilized, cultured, and refined men and women of civilization called FOI and MGT and GCC. So this is a small order for God to refine a people that to anyone else would be hopeless. But yes, that's what's going to happen. Not because we say it, but the prophet says it, that God is going to do this.
Yes, sir, very good lessons. My question is kind of like a twofold. It's mainly about on page 98, where our father said that vengeance is mine and how he'll destroy America with the rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes. And how can we get our people to see and unify under that note that Allah is fighting on our behalf? And also when he spoke on page 92 about how he will destroy the civilization as in Samson. And so is that a Samson of the past, or is that something of present day?
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that 75% of the history of Jesus is prophetic. What the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is pointing out to us in the first part, what was the end of that first part of the question?
It was about, I'm sorry, I closed my book. But it was about police brutality and how Allah is fighting in our behalf. So when he say vengeance is mine and using rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes to destroy, how to fight in our behalf, I mean, cause us picking up arms is just causing the police to kill us. So,
Yes.
but how do we unify our people by letting them know that Allah is fighting in our behalf with rain, hail, snow, and earthquakes, weapons that the devil can't
Well,
handle?
there's a bumper sticker I remember seeing. It says, "Let go and let God." There's no such thing as God not being able to remove a puny enemy such as America, as mighty as she might be. She's only the mightiest in regards to man, but not to God. So all this is saying is just get out the way. And we have past histories of God removing mighty people in civilization that were much greater in might than this one, and removing them in the twinkling of an eye, seemingly. And this was just with angels. This wasn't even God himself. So it's no problem to do that. The problem is getting our people out the way so God don't have to kill them. So this is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, some of our people, they're going to have to be whipped into submission because they have such high regard for these devils being able to do anything. And they have yet to see their God at work. So once the work starts of Allah in earnest, begins to remove these folks, and they see that this is God at work, it's going to be no problem for the people to fly to Allah. But some, this is why the Holy Quran says, and fuel for the fire is men and stones. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, I don't know why he uses stones, but we know the men are those that will burn if they don't submit. So that's a matter between them and Allah and Muhammad. Our job is to make the truth so clear that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches a fool can understand they won't have no excuse for not coming to their own. And the last part
Was in reference to Samson. Is that when he spoke about Samson on page 92, is that Samson of a history, or was that a prophetic history talking about now?
the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said Allah uses all kinds of people's histories to teach us of ourselves. If it was past, it would be of no concern or no value to us today. It is all the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaching us. Don't act like Samson of the past, who out of their sheer unadulterated anger and hostility sought vengeance with no regard for the future generations to come. So this is what he is telling us. But as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, we are charged with getting our people. And if we follow the guidance of his Allah, we won't miss getting a one of them. So all that are left, that's a matter between them and Allah. Any more questions?
No further questions, sir.
So, well, we thank Allah Muhammad for the opportunity. As we turn the Rasul back to your hard-working brother minister, Rahim Ali. Peace, peace.
Peace, peace.
Praise be to Allah Muhammad. Let's give our brother ministers, brother major, brother ministers, and brother spoken another round of applause. Praise be to Allah Muhammad. We would like to say that we get ready to close out here in a second, but we want to let everybody know that if there's anyone here have heard anything that would make them want to join on to their own, the New World Nation of Islam. We have a brother secretary in the back, and we have a assistant secretary in the back. You can go back and pick up one of the slips and fill out the form and mail it in. Or you can fill it out here. It's on how you want to do it. Also, those who are watching us live, you can go download our page on Facebook, www.newworld.com. And you can fill it out, get the paper, download the page, fill it out, and then send it in. Also, we would like to know if anyone have it, if they want to donate to us, big or small. If you want to donate to the New World Nation of Islam, then you can go on our page and donate to New World Nation, www.newworldofislam.com. And we appreciate anything you give us. With that, we will close out. In the name of Allah, the key to understanding the teachings of the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad is to know that the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad says what he means and means what he says. We quote what he wrote and what he said we must obey. Nothing is wrong. Everything is in time and on time all the time. The history is already written in 25,000 year cycles. Our Father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad said, before the kingdom can come, there must be a falling away first. During the night of spiritual darkness, the devil will cast 1/3 of the stars of God down to the ground. But a new sun and a new day under the guidance of the great Mahdi will come, and he will turn the hearts of the children back to our Father, the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad. The new sun is raised by the most honorable Mr. Elijah Muhammad here in the wilderness of North America, in the West. Will everyone please rise? Extend your hands in front of you as though you're holding a tray or about to receive a gift. You may recite along with me silently as I recite aloud the prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful. Praise be to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of the Day of Requital. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not of those upon whom wrath is brought down, nor of those who go astray. Amen. Temple service is closed.